16 pages. That's the full length of IronFrame. For a mech RPG, a genre that usually leans dense and technical, that's not just ambitious, it's a statement. Hi friends, and welcome back to the lab. I'm the Alchemist, and today we're taking our first look at IronFrame. It cites its influences as Armored Core, Lancer, Stoneburner, and Fabula Ultima, which tells us this is going to be a focused and stylized mech action RPG rather than a deep mechanical simulation. So, let's lock in. Player characters are pilots who build unique mechs. Each mech is divided into core areas, and each of those areas is represented by a die, typically ranging from a D4 to a D12. Through abilities and effects, those dice can be upgraded or downgraded. When you make a check tied to a part of the mech, you roll its die. The game operates in two primary modes: role-playing as pilots and operating your mech in combat. That doesn't mean those modes are isolated, however. If something happens outside the mech, the GM calls for the appropriate pilot skill or mech component. Pilots, when not in their mechs, roll the die associated with their skills. Now, the resolution mechanic itself is very straightforward. 5 or higher is your best result. 3 or 4 succeeds, but gives you a trade-off. 2 introduces a bad trade-off, with 1 being your worst outcome. There are no modifier stacks, no layered math, just die size. Although, there are times when you can feel lucky or unlucky, which allow you to roll twice and take the higher or lower result. It's clean and fast, with momentum clearly the priority. Every mech is built around 5 components, with each represented by a die, which governs a different aspect of performance. Tech handles system manipulation and hacking. Chassis represents durability. Speed governs positioning and evasiveness. Arms determines offensive capability, and size influences scale and physical presence. Over all of this sits your core, or your power budget, and you start with a core of 30. Each successful mission raises that number by 2, and your component dice cannot exceed that core. That constraint does real work, because you can't optimize everything. If you push arms high, something else must give. If you prioritize speed, you're sacrificing durability somewhere else, and that tension remains meaningful. Growth is linear, dice increase, core increases, but the system doesn't introduce new mechanical layers over time. You become stronger, not broader, and that's a delicate and deliberate boundary. Outside the mech, pilots use 4 attributes: talk, sneak, fortitude, and will. Pilots can only take 3 hits or so before going down, but they do have access to stunts, which are limited use abilities, often used once per combat or even once per session, and these allow players to bend a moment in their favor. The book includes sample stunts to demonstrate survivability boosts, offensive surges, recovery options, and tactical repositioning tools. Mechanically speaking, stunts don't introduce new subsystems. They modify existing actions. They increase impact, not complexity. Advancement allows you to increase a die or take a new stunt after a successful mission. Over time, progression feels steady. You gain more moments of influence, but you don't unlock entirely new play loops. Pilot play remains supportive rather than dominant. Combat runs on 2 actions per round, side-based initiative, and a fixed list of 10 actions. Those are scan, which allow you to assess a target before committing; hack, which allows you to disrupt enemy systems; divert, which allows for the rerouting of power within your mech; attacking, which allows you to deal direct damage; brace, which allows you to reduce incoming damage; impose, which allows you to force disadvantage onto an enemy; dodge for avoiding incoming danger; burst, which is a push for a high-speed surge; aid, which allows you to support an ally's action; and use equipment to allow you to trigger that gear mid-combat. Now, instead of grids, IronFrame uses zones. Distance is abstracted into the following: danger close, close, medium, far, and distant. You're not measuring inches, you're making positioning decisions. Now, conditions are varied as well. You have locked, scrambled, drained, and dots, or damage over time. These introduce meaningful friction. As sessions accumulate, players settle into roles. The hacker disrupts, the striker pressures, the tank absorbs, but the action menu doesn't expand. and it allows you to refine how you use those 10 tools. That keeps combat readable. It also defines its depth. Equipment includes repair kits, overclockers, shield units, phantom decoys, and condition clearing tools. Gear adds spikes. It doesn't add new subsystems. It enhances moments, rather than expanding the structure. Now, this chapter also includes starter mechs, such as the Well-Rounded, the Hacker, the Tank, and the Blitz. These lower the barrier to entry significantly. You can hand someone a sheet and begin immediately. For a lean system, that's smart onboarding. Over time, equipment remains a modifier though, not a transformer. The setting for IronFrame presents a corporate war across contested systems. At the center are the Big Four: Supply Co., which serve as the logistical backbone of the war, and Amara, who are biotech innovators dealing in experimental research. You have GLD Tech, which are elite military engineering specialists, and Ball Holdings, aggressive expansionists focused on resource control. Now, beyond them you have the Starsworn Empire, which is a centralized authority rooted in tradition and control, and the Freeholdings, which are independent systems resisting both corporate and imperial dominance. You're given structure, not dense lore, which serves great for contract-driven campaigns. In terms of adversaries, IronFrame presents clear battlefield roles. You have grunts that put on pressure through numbers, generalists who are balanced threats, interrupters disrupt positioning and momentum, and defenders absorb damage and anchor the field. You also have strikers that create urgency through their focused damage, and drone fighters that serve as mobile harassment units. At the top of the list, though, you have Bloodwing squad members. These serve as elite threats with high dice arrays in all systems, and in some cases take multiple turns per round. Scaling remains vertical, stronger numbers, greater intensity, which allows you to keep the prep light, even as threats escalate. The included adventure, First Flight, functions as an onboarding scenario. It begins with a mercenary contract already in motion. Early scenes allow pilot skills to matter before mechs even engage, and combat unfolds in waves. That escalation introduces resource pressure, condition management, and positioning decisions. By the final confrontation, players have engaged with hacking, action economy, and endurance under strain. Structurally, it teaches the game by using it. It's straightforward, and it works. IronFrame is disciplined. It builds a tight engine around constraint, die size, core limits, and a clear action economy, a structure that it commits to fully. The design is intentional. It prioritizes momentum over granularity, accessibility over density. So, if you want a mech game that you can read quickly, teach quickly, and run with very little prep, IronFrame absolutely delivers. So, is IronFrame something you'll consider picking up and adding to your rotation? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, if you want more deep dives into indie TTRPGs, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time in the lab.